everyone, this is Sophia and welcome to part 2 of my Paris haul. As you can tell from the title and probably the thumbnail, this video is all about Hermes. I have a few items in here, like I said in part 1. If you haven't seen that video, I'm going to leave a link up there, but there's no bag. So if you're here to see a bag, to learn how lucky I got, this is definitely not that video. I did not get lucky. But I figured I would not only share my haul, but I would kind of talk about my experience and what I did, what I learned, as well as my experience at the airport. And the reason why this video is just about Hermes is because I watched a ton of videos about the Hermes journey in Paris, and I feel like even though I watched so many videos to the point where I started dreaming about Hermes, I still felt unprepared. And so I'm hoping that if you are a first-time Paris goer and you're trying to start your Hermes journey in Paris, I'm hoping that this video will provide the information to you that will be helpful for me that I wish I knew going into it. So without further ado, let's just get into the haul, because maybe that's the only part you care about and it would just be easier. But if you're interested in certain sections of the video, I'm going to leave timestamps in the description box, as well as you can probably just toggle through the timeline. I am going to start with my store haul. And the only Hermes store I managed to get to in Paris was the Faubourg, I cannot pronounce it. The main store, the flagship. Let's just start with the big box. If you know Hermes, you probably already guessed what is in this box, but I haven't opened it, and thankfully I was not asked to open it during my tax refund. Hang on, anticlimactic. There. So I did get my third pair of chipper sandals, which is a lot, I'm not gonna lie. I got it in a size 38.5, which I believe my black ones I got as a size 38, but the 38.5 actually fit me fine. So yeah, I got it in this, I'm gonna assume gold color because it looks like my mini Evelyn. But I did actually want them in the beige lin, which, let me insert a picture. Those were my dream shipper sandals, and if I had been able to find them at the store, that would have been my last pair of shipper sandals. But yeah, I did also try them in a white, like a white and a black. Did not like them. I basically asked her, do you have anything in suede? Even if it's a neutral color, like I'm open to like a suede neutral. This was the only other pair that she brought out for me, and she was like, this is the only like other neutral color that I have in a 38.5, and so I tried it on and I preferred this over the white. Put that on the ground. And then this is the second and final thing that I got from the store. And again, if you know Hermes, you already know what this is based on the box. And this is actually my first of this item type from Hermes. I mean, I guess unless you count Twillies. Oh, this is the first time I've seen this box, so that I did not know. That's kind of cool though. Here it is. Okay, I'm like, probably to most of you there's nothing to be excited by, but this color combination just immediately caught my eye. So here it is. I got the 90 by 90 silk scarf. Wait, am I showing you it the right way? I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be a horse, but I might be showing you it the wrong way. Hopefully you can see that. My neck can get cold really easily, and sometimes I find that a scarf is too much and I get too sweaty. And so I realized that now I understand why people buy silk scarf. One of the things that I did want to get when I got to Paris was a silk scarf from Hermes, because I just find that their colors are so much more interesting and more vibrant than other fashion houses. And so when I went to the Faubourg store, the first place I went to was the scarf counter, and I'll talk more about why and everything. The lighting is washing it out a little bit, but it is like a true dark green. Maybe that's a better showcase. And it has like, it's looking a little yellow, but it's like a beige, maybe it is a little yellow. And then it has a little bit of blue. So I just think this is a stunning scarf. That is probably not a great way to showcase it, but you know, we'll make do. So let me put it back. If you're interested in the last piece of Hermes thing that I got at the airport, you can feel free to skip to that section. But I'm going to talk about my experience at the Faubourg store now. I got to Paris on a Monday morning. I didn't arrive to my hotel until like 1 p.m. The lottery system opens from 10:30 a.m. and closes at 7 p.m. As soon as we got into the room, my husband and I both did it from our phones. One thing that I haven't heard anyone talk about is that it's not just putting your information in through the website. They have to send you an email for you to confirm your interest in making an appointment. I did not know this. And so the first time I did it, I got an email, no problem. My husband did not get an email. And you can technically like do it again, but I don't think that actually changes like anything. Like you don't end up getting an email if you do it a second time, if that makes sense. And then I think we did it the second day, still nothing. I also fully expected, based on what videos I had watched, that I would at least get an email being like, you were not selected or you were selected. I thought I would just get some sort of confirmation. But basically, you only get a confirmation if you are selected. That night, I kept refreshing my email because they basically say when you confirm your appointment that between 8 and 9, they will email you if you get an appointment. So in that time period, I was just refreshing my email, waiting to see something, but I never got anything. And so I was honestly surprised because, like I said, I expected to at least hear like, oh, you were not selected, sorry, please try again tomorrow, but nothing. So if you are applying and you don't hear anything between the 8 and 9 p.m. time frame, then most likely you did not get an appointment, which I think is kind of annoying to not even get that confirmation, especially because some videos I watched was saying that like, oh, like I got an email like 10:30 p.m. or something, which now that like I've went through the process, I'm doubtful that that's really, really rare occurrence. I think if you are going to hear something, it is going to be between the 8 and 9 p.m. time frame. For the days that we were going to Disneyland Paris and the Palace of Versailles, because they are a little further and require a little bit more planning for like trains and transportation and food, etc., those 2 days me and my husband did not submit for a appointment request. And so in the middle of our trip, we did not submit any requests. And maybe that harmed us in the end, but you know, what it is. And then the last leg of our trip, which was, we were there in Paris for 10 days and those are only 2 days. So for basically the last like 7 to 8 days, we basically submitted a request every day. We tried to do it as close to 10:30 as possible. Sometimes at 10:30, the website basically crashed, which makes sense. So sometimes I was able to do it within at 10:35, no issues. And again, sometimes I would get an email, sometimes my husband would get an email, but it was very rare for us both to get a confirmation email on the same day. I don't understand it. And then on the last full day, which was the day that I had basically reserved for us to go shopping, I went to Hermes early before they opened at 10:30 a.m. This was a Tuesday. And so I kind of, not gonna lie, I didn't expect a line. And I got there around 10:20 and there was already like 10 people in line waiting for the store to open. By the time I stood in line and by the time around 10:30 rolled around, the line was like much longer, like 20-30 people. We went in and there were so many people. I personally did not know where to find the lady with the appointment. To be honest, the Hermes flagship store is probably the tightest and the smallest I've actually seen and ever been in. And so I did not expect it, to be honest. I thought it would be a much larger store. I thought it'd be high ceilings, lots of windows, but it kind of felt tight and cramped. Partially, I think because of the amount of people that were in there, but also there were a ton of SAs but they were just standing there. And so there wasn't a lot of flowing, there wasn't a lot of movement. You had to like walk around people. So I wandered around the first floor, which was jewelry, scarves. There was, at the appointment desk was by the display of bags, which I wish someone had told me, as well as men's ready-to-wear, men's shoes. There was some SOGs, but it's mostly just like fashion jewelry. And so, oh, and beauty. You go up to the second floor and that's where the fine jewelry, the leather goods like belts, home was there, as well as women's shoes, as well as some ready to wear, like women's ready to wear. Second floor, I think, was where a lot of people went straight to because of the women's shoes. And so the women's shoes section, you had to actually there was like a waiting list, so you had to put your name down before an essay could come to you. Because I got there pretty early, there wasn't a ton of people there yet, and so I put my name down, and literally 2 minutes later an essay came straight to me and was like, what do you want? And so I basically told her that I was looking for the chipper sandals in the beige lin, and she was like, okay, what if there is no beige lin? Like, are you looking for anything else? And I basically just said any neutral color in the size like 38. And so she came out without just one box, said there was only the white, no beige lin. And so I was like, okay, like let me try them on, because at that point I was maybe considering the white. Like I said, did not look good on me and I did not like the contrast of it. And so I basically asked her, was there any suede chipper sandals in the neutral? So she only came back with the brown pair, and I was like, okay, well, I actually can live with these because at least they don't contrast as badly as the white and black. Then the essay had asked me like, oh, are you done shopping or are you gonna keep looking around? At this point, I hadn't had a chance to actually talk to the lady at the front desk yet, and so I was like, okay, you know what, I'm going to keep shopping around. But before then, I realized I didn't share the story about the scarf. So actually the first floor, I took a lap and that's when I hit the scarves. The lady there was super nice. At that point, there was no one else at the scarf section looking at scarves, so it was just me. This was my first like actual essay purchasing experience, so I didn't really know what to expect, but I stood there for a solid like 2 minutes. None of the essays on that floor even spoke to me, said hello, and I had to basically go to like say to one of the essays, can I look at that one, before they even helped me. And that to me was kind of a shock. Every Hermes experience I've had in the United States has been very pleasant in terms of the fact that like they'll come say hello, they'll see what I want, they're asking what I'm looking for. And I'm not quite sure if it's just because like the Paris system is like lottery based, that they're more laissez-faire about customers. But basically I went to the lady being like, can I see this one? And then she showed it to me, and then I was like, can I see that one? And then she showed me the one I ultimately purchased, and I was like, okay, great, I'll buy it. And I basically said to her, I was like, this is my first time at the store, like how does purchasing work? So in all the videos I watched, someone finally said something, which was that every department has their own essays. So one essay cannot go to you in different departments, which was what I was used to. And so I basically went to this scarf essay and I was like, hey, like this is my first time, like how does like buying work? And basically she was like, if you want something, like I'll create a profile for you, I'll put this scarf under your name, and then if you, as you're shopping around, just tell them your name if you're interested in buying something, and then by the time you get to the counter, they'll have your name and your list of items you're gonna buy, and that's when you check out. And so I was like, okay, that makes sense. That's something I didn't know. I kind of wish I did know that, because I think that would have helped me a little bit more. Because I had to ask, it definitely sounded like I didn't know what I was doing, and maybe that ended up hindering the potential like relationship I could have built with that essay. And that's when I went to the second floor and looked at shoes. After I looked at shoes and told the essay I was going to buy the chipper sandals, I went back down and found the appointment desk, and basically there was no line there, but I could tell that the lady was not necessarily not going to be nice, but just that like she had a no nonsense like look about her, you know, like you can sometimes just kind of tell. By the time she finished with the person in front of me, who was French, I think she was asking for an appointment, I basically was like, hey, like I know probably the answer is no, but like is there any appointments? And she was like, yeah, there's been no cancellations. And then after that they started to form a line, I think, to ask her. Probably I could have been a little bit more confident in how I asked for an appointment, but to be honest, and I don't think I said this at the beginning of the video, I went into this entire experience not necessarily wanting a bag, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like a lot of people will go to Paris with the sole goal to get an Hermes appointment and a Hermes bag. For me, I just kind of went into this whole experience from the point of view of like an experiment. I just wanted to see if I could get lucky, if I could get a bag, if I could get an appointment, if I couldn't get an appointment, if I could make a connection with an SA to the point where I could go back to Paris in a few years and they'll remember me. I was just curious, right? And so I knew that going in, I was like, okay, you know what? If she says no, it's fine. Like, I'm not gonna make a fuss. If she says yes, amazing, hooray. Like, I'll cancel all my plans and make it work. But if not, I won't be like upset either. And so when she said no, I was like, okay, thank you for your time. And I just left. Like, there was nothing I could do. But I do think that because I was able to create a profile in Paris for Hermes, that maybe in the future, maybe I'll be more lucky. After that, I basically just wanted to check out. And the way to check out, no video I watched explained how this worked, but basically you got to find one of the SAs who helped you with one of the things you're gonna buy, and they have to bring you to the cashier to say like, oh, this person wants to check out. But basically I went to find the SA who helped me with a scarf, and I was like, hey, I'm ready to check out, like, can you take me? And she did. Once she gave the lady who was at the checkout my name, she went off to go get the items and package them up for me. Towards the end, I basically asked the checkout lady, I was like, hey, can you like send these items to my hotel? And she was like, yes, no problem. And so that was actually really, really helpful. I highly, highly recommend you do that if you're buying anything big and bulky. If you're buying like a small thing, like if I had just bought the scarf, I probably would have just carried it with me because it's just a scarf. How heavy can it be? But because I also bought a pair of shoes, I was like, okay, I don't really want to carry that around with me. This was at like 11 a.m. and I was going to spend the rest of the day shopping. And she just basically got down the name of my hotel, the name the reservation is under, as well as the room number, and that was it. The items will be delivered in like 1 to 2 hours. And basically at the end of the day, when I went back to the hotel, it was basically just at the concierge's desk, and I told them my name, my room number, and they just gave me the bag. So it was super, super easy. I am overall like happy with my experience at the Faubourg store. I think next time I'd want to try to go to the Sèvres store or the St. George store. That is my experience at the Faubourg store, and now I'm really, really thirsty. Anyways, the last item is here, which again, if you are familiar with Hermes, you know exactly what is in this small box. Okay. This is actually something I saw. This is actually something I saw on their website like a few days before I left, and I was immediately intrigued, which by the way, this is like the first time I've gotten jewelry in this packaging. That is a really nice suede. Oh, you can see the, okay, maybe you can't see it, but it has like Hermes engraved in it. Here they are. In comparison to the Click H studs, definitely like twice as big. They actually in the store had a white and gold pair, but because I already have the Click H ear studs in a white and gold, I was like, okay, well, I kind of want to try a different color. And I originally was not a big fan of the pink because in the store lighting it looked really, really pink, but actually when I put it towards my ear, it just looks really pale, which is really, really cute. I don't love that this doesn't come in a pouch though. So when I did not get the appointment in Hermes, my husband actually texted me. I was like, did you manage to get a bag or an appointment? And I was like, no. And I said, okay, I might try the airport, because to be honest, I've seen so many videos of people successfully being able to get a bag. Our flight was leaving from Terminal 2E. I don't know if that's helpful, but that's just FYI. The Hermes store there is like the first thing you see after you get through security. So I was like, oh, yay. But it is small. It is probably the smallest Hermes store I've ever seen. Even the New York one in JFK is bigger than the one in CDG, at least in Terminal 2E, which was very interesting. I walked in, they had some scarves on display. The selection was super limited. There were a few bags on display. There were some men's ties. There was a little bit of fine jewelry, a little bit of like a few SLGs, a small wall of like women's shoes, and then like a small selection of like belts. I immediately went to these earrings because these were something that I had my eye on. I really liked them, so I decided to get them. I basically asked the SA after I decided to get them, like, do they have the Kelly Messenger PM? That was the only bag I was interested in. If I got an appointment, that was the only bag I was gonna ask for. And he said no. And I basically was like, okay, you know what? It's not meant to be. It's like, this bag is not meant to be mine because the store was so small. The person who showed me the earrings was also the one to check me out. What was interesting is that I could give him some euros and he could deduct that from the price I had to pay with my credit card. So if you have any spare euros once you get to the airport, just know that you can like spend it like that. So that's something to keep in mind. And then the other thing was that after scanning my boarding pass, he didn't ask for any of my profile information. So I actually have no idea if these earrings are gonna show up in my Paris profile. But that is it for my Hermes haul from Paris. I definitely only got things that I wanted, and maybe I didn't get everything I wanted, but I don't think this is like the end of my Hermes journey. Even outside of Hermes, like, I only buy things that I know I'll like and I'll enjoy, and I'm not precious about keeping stuff that I don't use. And so that's definitely like how I've always felt about these luxury goods, is that I have to know I'll use it and I'll have to know that I'll love using it before I'll spend that money, because none of this is just stuff that I'm like investing in. This is stuff that I'm going to be using. So I hope this video is helpful. If you are going to Paris for any time and you're interested in experiencing the Hermes journey through there and you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. But hopefully I'll see you next time for another one. Bye guys.